So if we look at this first one here, we can see that the x values, one's positive 4x and one's negative 4x. So if we were to add them together, 4x plus negative 4x is 0. And then negative 3y plus negative 9y would give us negative 12y. And then we'd have negative 20 plus 20 is 0 again. So if we divide both sides by negative 12, we get y equals 0. So now all we have to do is pick either equation and plug that in for y. So I'm going to pick the first one. So I got 4x minus 3 times 0 equals negative 20. So that is 4x equals negative 20. Divide both sides by 4, we get x equals negative 5. So this thing intersects at negative 5, comma, 0. That would be our answer. So, you could have done a bunch of different ways to solve it, but I think that was the easiest route. So if we look at number 2 here, again, notice those x values are exactly the same. We have a negative 10x and a negative 10x. So if we subtract them when they're the same, it'll make them equal 0. So negative 10x minus negative 10x is 0. Negative 10y minus negative 5y would be negative 5y, because 2 negatives make positive. And then 30 minus 25 is 5. Divide both sides by negative 5, and we get y equals negative 1. So now we can pick either equation and plug it back in. So again, I'm going to go with the first one. Negative 10x, it's a negative right there, minus 10 times negative 1, well, that would become a plus 10, right? Because 2 negatives make positive, equal 30. So now I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. And I get negative 10x equals 20. It's an x. Divide both sides by negative 10, I get x equals negative 2. So this thing has an intersection point at negative 2, comma, negative 1. So I'm going to edit the other stuff out. Does this make sense? Yes? Are you with me? And again, I made this review off the test, okay? So number 1 on the test is going to look like number 1 on here. Number 2 on the test is going to look like number 2. So hopefully the internet's up and running tomorrow. What you're going to be able to do is, when you're taking a test, watch this and then do it. And then if you have a question, you can still ask me, okay? All right. So here's a couple other types of problems. So notice with number 3, it's not in that standard form. But what we can do with that is, since we know this equals y, we're going to substitute it in for y. So I've got what? Negative 2x plus 6 times 3x minus 18. Again, I just replaced y with all that. Equals 4. So now we got to distribute this through. So we got what? Negative 2x plus 18x, and then we got 6 times negative 18, we what, minus 108 equals 4. So now we can combine our like terms, and I'm going to go ahead and add this 108 to both sides just to save a little bit of work. So we got negative 2x plus 18x is 16x, and then 108 plus 4 would be 112. So then we got to divide both sides by 16. Man, I guess I should have grabbed a calculator. So 16 goes into that what? 6, is it 7 times? No. Is it 7? So x, I don't know what just happened there. X equals 7. 112 divided by 16 is 7, correct? Okay, I'll take your word for it. Then we got to figure out y. So now if we want to find y, we can just come back up here and plug x in. So x is 7. So we got 3 times 7 minus 18. Well, 3 times 7 is 21. 21 minus 18 is 3. So y equals 3. So that means these two lines intersect at 7, comma, 3. So there's going to be a problem. It's going to involve substitution. So now notice with number 4, a couple of different things. We could get that second equation solved for y really easily, or we could multiply like the bottom equation by 2, and then we could use elimination and add them up. All right, so I'll have to edit that out too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use elimination. Well, actually, no, I'm going to do substitution with this one, I think. So I'm going to take this and add 6x to both sides. and I got y equals 6x minus 22. So now I'm going to take that and plug that in for y up here. So I've got negative 4x minus 2 times 6x minus 22 equals negative 20. Got to distribute that. So we got negative 4x minus 12x plus 44 equals negative 20. So I'm going to subtract 44 from both sides. Oops, 4, that's a 4. And then I'm going to combine these two. So that's going to give me negative 16x equals negative 64. So now we got to divide both sides by negative 16. So how many times does negative 16 go into 64? 4 times. So x equals 4. So now again, we can take this one up here and plug in 4. So I'm going to go 6 times 4 is 24. 24 minus 22 is 2. So that means our y value is 2. So these two lines intersect at 4, 2. And that would be our answer. All right, let's just keep pounding through this so we can say we're done. All right, so the next thing we practiced in this chapter was graphing and solving inequalities like this. So we need to get the variable by itself. So I'm going to distribute everything through. So we end up with a positive 16k plus 32. So now I'm going to subtract 32 from both sides. Again, I guess I should add a calculator. So what's 112 minus 32? Be 80? No, 90, right? No, 80. I'm an idiot. So 80 is greater than 16k. So now we got to divide both sides by 16 to figure out what we got here. So that'd be 5, right? So we got 5 is greater than k. I don't like leaving it like that. I always want the variable first. So k less than 5 would be how we'd want to write it. So that makes it a little bit easier to graph. So if we want to graph this, that less than is telling us we need an open circle at 5, and we need to shade this way. So that would be our answer if we were to shade it. Pretty easy, right? Not too bad. So let's do the same thing here. So we're going to have to distribute this through. So I got negative 3 now plus 24p greater than or equal to negative 171. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So it gives me 24. P is greater than or equal to negative 168. So now I got to divide both sides by 24. What is negative 168 divided by 24? Is it 7? Negative 7, right? So P is greater than or equal to negative 7. So we have to put an open or closed circle at negative 7. It's got an equal sign on it. And shade this way. And that would be our answer. Remember, if you multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to flip the inequality. So we also talked about graphing systems of linear inequalities. So I'm going to do these in 2 different colors. Do the first one in red. So that means we go down to 3 and put a dot. And our slope's 2. So that means we go up 2 over 1. Up 2, and I'm just doing this so I can draw a nice, neat line here. And do the best I can at connecting my dots. So now it says less than or equal to. So I did a solid line because I had an equal sign. Less than means we would shade the side we cannot walk on. So we're thinking about being shaded that way. So the next one, we go up to positive 3 and put a dot. And now we have to go down 4 over 1 because the slope's negative 4. So I go down 4 over 1, down 4 over 1. I'm going to have to do the best I can at connecting the dots here. And it needs to be dotted as well because it does not have an equal sign. And less than, again, is the side you cannot walk on. So hopefully when you're looking at this and you're imagining the green side being shaded on the side you can't walk on, the red side, the side you can't walk on, the overlapping region is right here. So that's where all of our answers are. So that's where all the solutions are. That's what we should have shaded. All right. So the next type of problem you're going to see is when it's not solved for y. So you're going to have to solve some of these equations for y. So I'm going to take that first one here. Hopefully we all see we got to subtract x from both sides. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides, and I got negative y is greater than negative x plus 3. Well, we got to get rid of that negative sign, so we can multiply or divide everything by a negative 1. So that gives us y is less than positive x minus 3. Remember, whenever you multiply or divide by a negative, you have to flip the inequality. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and solve this one too. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. Get y by itself. So I got y is greater than or equal to 4x plus 2. So let's go ahead and graph these. Make that first one red. I go down 3, put a dot. And then I'm going to go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, over and over again. Because our slope's 1. So this one should be dotted because it's less than. It doesn't have an equal sign. And less than means you would shade the side you cannot walk on. When we subtract 4x from both sides, that should be a negative 4x right there, right? So that's where we went wrong with this one. So we need to go up 2, put a dot. Now we go down 4 over 1. There we go. Down 4 over 1 we can't do. So we draw our line. Greater than is the side we can walk on. So now the overlapping region is right here. That's where all of our solutions are. Got to pay attention to signs. Make mistakes. All right. We also did absolute values. I know we're talking about a lot of different things here. So absolute value. You have to get the absolute value by itself. You split it apart into two inequalities. So the absolute value is by itself here. So you keep one absolute value the exact same. And then the other absolute value, you have to flip the inequality and change the sign of everything on the right. So now we're just going to subtract 9 from both sides. And that gives us k is greater than or equal to negative 21. Same thing here. Subtract 9 from both sides. And we get k is less than or equal to positive 3. So since this is a less than problem, we plot those 2 points. Closed circle at 21. Closed circle at 3, somewhere around there. Kind of overlapping there. And then less than means you shade in the middle. So all the answers are in the middle. Next problem, you got to get the absolute value by itself. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides first. And now I've got r over 4 is greater than 2. So now I can split it apart in my two inequalities. So I'm going to keep one exactly the same. R over 4 is greater than 2. And then this one, r over 4 is less than negative 2. So I multiply both sides by 4. And I get r is less than negative 8. Multiply both sides by 4 on this one as well. And I get r is greater than 8. So notice this one is greater than. So that means the answer shoots outward. So we put an open circle at negative 8 and an open circle at 8. And since it's a greater than problem, we shade it shooting outward. I know this was something that we did last week at the end of the week, so you guys weren't here when we were talking about it. The word problems. I can't remember. Did we do the word problems in this group? Does anybody remember? Yeah. Because we went through almost all these, I feel like. All right. So we're just going to do one of these. So you're going to see a couple word problems on the test. So we want to make sure we can figure out what's going on here. So the first day of school, they sold 2 senior tickets and 9 child tickets for $92. There's our first equation. And then on the second day, they had $192 and they sold 12 senior citizen tickets and 9 child tickets. So the first thing we need to do is just identify what our variables are going to represent. So I'm going to be real lazy here. X is equal to the cost of a senior citizen ticket. And then Y is going to be the cost of a child ticket. All right, so we're going to go through and write this. So the yellow I highlighted says we sold 2 senior citizen tickets and 9 children tickets for a total of $92. And then the purple I've got highlighted there says that, well, we made $192 by selling 12 senior citizen tickets and 9 children tickets. So if we look at this, notice if we subtract these two, the y's will disappear. So I'm going to go 2 minus 10x, or 12x is negative 10x. Oh, wow, this one's really easy. And then 92 minus 192 is negative 100. So now I got to divide both sides by negative 10. and I get X equals 10. So that's telling us that a senior citizen ticket is $10. So now we can go back and plug that in. So I'm just going to pick the first equation. So I'm going to, again, use this equation right here. So I'm going to plug in 10 for X. Oops. Not what I want. There we go. So now I've got 2 times 10 is 20, plus 9y equals 92. So I'm going to divide both sides, or I'm not going to divide, I'm going to subtract both sides by 20. So that gives me 9y equals 72. Now I divide both sides by 9, and I get y equals 8. So the senior citizen tickets are $10, and the child tickets are $8.